What's up, everybody? Just about 15 minutes before I close the shop here, I'm going to dig into this Stihl MS201T top handle saw. Customer just brought it in, dropped it from a tree onto the ground, broke the handle assembly, so I am going to replace that whole assembly. While I am in there, I replaced the wiring harness. Those of you that have watched my videos before know that these top handles are notorious for having a ground wire issue, so that would be this little yellow wire in there. So what happens is when you're idling your saw, it works perfectly fine. Throttle it up, works perfectly fine. And as soon as you put it into the tree and put it under a load, you're pushing against the front of the handle assembly right there. See if I can show you guys this. Pushing it down like that. And what's happening is it grounds out that wire. So that's why I'm going to replace that when I'm in there, because I already got to take the wire off to take the handle assembly apart. So it just makes sense to do that. I want to say that's probably like a $20-some part. And then the AV springs usually get bent when those fall out of the tree. And then also the air filter cover. The air filter cover is cracked and broken, and we don't want air filters to end up getting debris sucked into that area. So make sure that you guys are replacing the air filter covers if they're broke. So let me get this camera set up, and we'll go ahead and I'll show you guys tearing this down and getting the new handle on. So these are a little bit of a pain if you guys haven't done one of these before. Make sure you take lots of pictures because they are somewhat complicated. If you've done a few of them, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. So just go ahead and pop the bar off and the clutch cover just so I got more room to work and I don't have stuff in my way. And I'm going to start with this handle assembly right here. You got the 3 screws. Go ahead and pop those off. What you're going to want to pay attention to is the way all this inner workings lays out inside here. The wiring gets tucked into certain areas so you don't have issues with it. And the throttle linkage, choke linkage, you got to make sure that those are in the right position. And I'll show you what I mean once we get in here. So go ahead and pop that off. Use my handy dandy magnet trays. I love these magnet trays. If you guys don't have these, make sure you grab some. Just makes it easier to keep track of everything. So this is what I mean. A lot of stuff going on here. Everything has to lay out exactly the way it is, otherwise it's not going to fit back together. Your wires, your grounds up here, you got to make sure you get that stuff right back in the same place. And then obviously your lockout, your throttle, and your choke. Got to get those back in the right position. So like I said, take lots of pictures so you can go back and reference how everything's laid out in there, because you don't want to try to figure it out later on. There's not really any diagrams that show it like detailed like this. I've done a couple videos already, so you guys can look for those in my video feed. But this damage right here is why we're replacing this whole housing. You can see it's broke off from that AV spring. There's no way to fix that at all. You just have to replace this handle assembly. And this air cleaner, we don't want debris getting into that carburetor. So we're gonna replace that too. But just go ahead, get this down a little bit for you here. I'm gonna take the carburetor off now. Pretty straightforward on this. You just gotta make sure you get it back together right. So if you guys have top handle saws like this, notice all the debris and stuff inside there. Every periodically, you should be taking this off, cleaning all that debris out of there. Just go ahead and put your thumb over the air intake hole and then blow all that debris out. This is your tank vent, so come on from this side, blow the debris off the tank vent. That is going to be preventative maintenance. A lot of the top handle saws end up having a lot of fine debris on the filters because guys get in the trees and they're cutting and it gets dull and they don't want to switch the chain out or take the time to come out of the tree. So they'll just keep cutting with the dull chain, and that's where you see a lot of this fine stuff. You do not want that sucked into your carburetor. If you do, you can end up having problems with it. So I'll take the carburetor off and look at it while I got it out, but just pay attention to that when you guys are doing that stuff. And then this is where it's broke. So I want to relieve the pressure on the fuel line. I'm probably just going to dump the fuel out since I'm going to have that fuel line off. Don't really care to get sprayed with fuel today. But anytime you guys are taking carburetors off, take the pressure off the tank. That's going to keep you from getting sprayed. So go ahead and take that off and that off. I'm going to blow this off real quick. See that fuel still coming out of that line even though I took the pressure. So just that fuel that's left over in that line. Well, let me blow this off really quick. Just going to cover the holes up. Nothing fancy on this, but I am going to take it apart, see if there's any debris in there. So what I'm going to look for is all that fines inside there. I'm going to check both sides, make sure the diaphragms look good, which this is a newer saw. It shouldn't have any problems, but I always check just in case. Everything looks good, not crunchy. If it gets crunchy where the stuff's not pliable, there's a screen in there. You guys are going to want to check that screen, make sure there's no debris in there. Put that back on. And then on this side, you can get a little bit of debris in there, so I'm just going to pop that off. Look at the metering diaphragm. Make sure everything's good, because remember, this saw fell out of a tree. Not sure exactly how far it fell out of the tree, so I always just want to inspect stuff that can become an issue, because it's easier to do it while I got everything torn off. And these screws stick a little bit, so if you're using the Phillips head, just make sure you don't strip them. So there is a little bit of debris, not horrible, but that is what I want to clean off. That's pulsing good. You see the fuel coming out there. But that is why I check these. Little debris on this side. So just make sure everything's clean. Make sure you get all the debris out. Because if these guys run the saws for a long time and you get bypassed through that air filter inside here, you can end up having intermittent running issues with these carburetors, and it's just due to the debris that's sitting on top of that diaphragm. So just do a quick go through like I did. Doesn't have to be anything special. Just take the covers off, clean the debris out, check the screen on the other side, make sure that it's good to go. So this wiring harness is a pain. Wiring harness goes from the carburetor, goes all the way through the handle assembly, goes down to the ignition coil. So you got to take everything off to get to it. So I'm going to blow this out because I don't want to mess with all this fuel. All right, so we got the manifold right there. You're gonna take that off, and I've got a rounded end piece. So notice this doesn't have any points on it. You're gonna take that, you're gonna push it back through. And so that's all you're gonna do on this side of things. Take the tank vent off. So you can get that to just pop out. Just remember you're dealing with plastic, so don't pull too hard. But the tank vent, you just want to make sure there's nothing on there. So I go ahead and blow these off. Get all the debris out of there. So we got all that. Now I've got this wiring harness. I'm going to use my pry tool. And what I want to do, take the side cover off first. This is for your MDG1 plug port. So if you're servicing this on the Stihl equipment on the computer, that's where you plug it in the other side. You're just gonna pop that out, choke lever, get the plastic pieces. Just make yourself a nice little pile of everything you tore off so it doesn't run away. The handle assembly right here, that AV spring is holding the front end on. So we're gonna take that off. The AV spring down here, that's got bent a little bit, it's not terrible. So that's gonna take that off. Now, like I said, we gotta take the ignition coil off and connect everything on there. So let me get this set up. And I will take this cover off so we can get to the ignition coil. So you see all the wires coming in up here. That is from the wiring harness. So we have to take all that stuff off. Take the ignition coil off. And then these have little washers on there for the ignition coil, so you know they go back on there. And that little cover goes right back there. So we gotta take that off. And that should just pop right off there. And then you got this assembly, just that gasket. It's gonna push up through there. And then now you've got your whole handle assembly off. So we'll have to steal parts off of this that we need. Everything else, like this grommet, that's all gonna come new in the pack. So I do wanna take this over again and blow everything off because I like to be tidy with the stuff when I'm putting it back together. And customers appreciate that. When I clean it off, I can also see if there's any other damage. So again, since it was dropped, we're checking for damage, seeing if there's anything that I didn't know was damaged without the obvious visual stuff that I had saw before. Everything looks pretty good. I have to take this AV piece off. And that's the broken piece. And then check the hoses, make sure those didn't get ripped or punctured. So those look good. Manifolds, make sure your manifolds didn't get ripped or torn or damaged. So doing a visual inspection on those. So that all looks good. So we should be good to throw the other wiring harness in. So there are several different modifications of this wiring harness right here. So make sure that you guys are getting the right ones. I keep these in stock because I go through them quite a bit. A lot of my tree guys drop their saws. Pretty common occurrence when you're trying to climb a tree and hold on for your life. So again, we're just going to feed this back the same way we took the other one out. And then on top here, just push your grommet into place. My rounded tool, make sure that's tight. And then connect this back onto the ignition coil. Tighten that all down. Get the ground wire over here where it's supposed to be. And I've got my little screw. These little ones are a little bit of a pain. Get that nice and tight. Get your plastic cover back on here. Make that nice and tight seal there. I'm gonna set the screws in. Get those in place right there. Lightly get them started. Make sure they're both threaded on there. Now I'm gonna take my gapping tool. Let's see where I put that. So gapping tool, if you don't have a gapping tool, it's pretty close to what the size of a business card is. Gonna set that in there. Pull the magnet over. Once you got everything nice and tight there, and the ignition coil is pointed to the magnet, go ahead and tighten that down. So that's all you do. Just double check, make sure everything's rotating freely, nothing's catching on there. You can put that cover back on. Now we're back on top. So there are different handle assemblies. So not every handle assembly that you're going to get for the 201 is going to be the right one. So there are some breakdowns as far as serial numbers go. So make sure whichever one you're using, you're getting the right one that fits your unit, because once you go to put it on there, there's going to be certain plastic pieces that are not going to match up. So if you get a handle for a 201T that's not a CM is going to be the M-tronic carburetor. The parts are not going to be molded the same way as they are with the standard carburetor. So make sure you're getting the right one. If you have an M-tronic handle, standard carburetor, standard handle. So just know that ahead of time. Otherwise, it's going to cause you some grief. So, and then I'll just start lightly laying some of this stuff in here. Can snap that back into place. The tank vent. The manifold, we're going to push that through. My rounded tool there. Grab onto some needle nose pliers. Just be careful not to rip that. Rounded end tool again. And I will put these tools in the description. They are really handy. If you guys don't have them, I would highly suggest you guys buying them. Get this other line in there. Doesn't want to cooperate with me and my big fingers. There we go. Then we can put the screw in for the AV, get a little bit of stability on it. So we're not going to mount the carburetor yet because I got to string the whole wiring harness through here. So this is a little bit of a pain. See if I can get it where you guys can see and I can still work on it. So my rounded end tool, I gotta go through and get the wires back into place. So obviously this goes all the way up here. So we'll just start laying everything out. Black wire here. Just gotta get it in place. You'll see where the wires can seat, and then you'll snap those in. These little grooves are only going to fit one way, so I got that black one in there. I'm going to do the yellow one. The yellow one's going to be your ground. This is the one that people tend to have problems with. If your saw, like I said, dies when you're pushing it into wood, usually it's this little yellow ground wire. So just keep that in mind if you guys are ever working on these. That's probably your problem. And I've had to replace quite a few of those over the years. That's just the nature of the beast of the design of this saw. This, like I said, this is a pain in the butt to deal with, but yeah, I guess you could take it off if you really want to go through all that work. You just need to get it to cooperate a little bit. Get these all in place. I can secure that. So that way it holds everything together so I'm not fighting it. And then I can proceed to start tucking my wires in. Got the yellow and the red. I'm going to do the yellow right there. And you just run along the whole bottom section of that handle, pushing it into place, a little groove there. All pretty straightforward. It's only going to go one way. But do not use a Phillips head or something pointy, because you will wreck this wire. It's got a really, really soft case on it. And if you damage that wire, you are going to have problems later on. So, and don't do this fancy thing where you think you're gonna fix it up and put some electrical tape over it or heat shrink it or whatever. Just replace the stupid wire. You're gonna have problems with it. There's no way around it. I'm not a fan of just hobnobbing wires and stuff. That's just dumb, it's lazy. These parts, like I said, 20 some bucks for this wiring harness. It's gonna cause you more than 20 some dollars worth of headaches if it's not working right. So that is the wire harness right there. Pretty straightforward on this. Everything's tucked into place nice and neat. Now I'm going to reassemble everything. And this is the fun part. This is where I usually have other stuff to go back and look at so I can see what I took off and where it goes. See if I can find a piece of wood here. You know, I have all this stuff that I lay on the counter. Blow that off. Don't want a bunch of sawdust and crap in here after I'm getting done replacing everything. This is the most annoying part of this assembly, is getting this to seat back in there. Alright, so I got that. See if I can remember everything. Probably won't. So that's gonna go there. Let's see how we got this one. Got that spring. Just looped around on that. It's gonna go underneath for clearance. It has hooked onto there. There we go. Boom. I was able to get it. So that is how that all goes together. Now you've got your 3 different levers. Let's see if I can remember these. This is where I need to reference some of my pictures. Like I said, these are tricky to do. You got a lot of moving parts here. Everything has to be perfect. So yeah, you get the idea. I'll go through when I get off the live, look at my pictures where everything goes, get everything back into place. So yeah, that's the handle assembly in a nutshell. So take lots of pictures, make sure that you guys are paying attention to where stuff goes, getting the parts labeled, put them right back if you can't remember. So a little bit complicated repair. Just be patient with it. Take your time, and if you got the pictures, it'll make it a lot easier. So thanks for watching, guys. Tune in. Tomorrow I should have a couple new projects. I got a partner concrete saw that I haven't had in here before. So we're going to tear into that, and got a couple other things on the table as well. So have a good rest of your night, guys.